we'll get on with it. Great. Jan, would you open our time in prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for bringing us together here tonight. We thank you that we can meet you in your word and learn more about you. And Lord, we just thank you for our pastor and that he's willing to guide us and direct us in opening up your word and helping us to learn more as we mature in our faith. And we just pray that you'd be with everybody here tonight and with those who wanted to be here, but they couldn't. And we just pray that you'll be with them too, and that you will help us to be able to figure out, Lord, how to spread the word that this is such a blessing to all of us. So I just pray you'll be with our study tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Awesome. All right. Well, who was here last week? You were here last week. Yeah. Okay, so just for you.
Shame. Shame.
So,
Not because I didn't want to be, I messed up.
no
I
problem.
apologize.
Okay, so
And the week before I was here sitting in front of the lake for Sunday too.
that's great. I love it. That's a great idea though. You come out here and listen to it. That's neat. So we were looking last week at Judges 13 and 14, and it's the first 2 of 4 chapters that cover the judge Samson. He's the 13th of 15 judges, and you know the one thing you look at is that he's not a godly man, but God's Spirit keeps dropping on the guy, and that's almost the confusing thing, right? And we're going to see more of it tonight, and we'll discuss more of it, and I think we're going to find out a little more. We're going to get some clarification on it, okay? You know, chapter 15, it opens with Samson cooling off a little bit after, you know, having that bachelor party. Remember that? He gives the riddle, and the Philistines, they threaten his new wife, his bride-to-be, that they're going to burn her and her parents. We're going to burn you to death. We're going to set you on fire if you don't find out from Samson the answer to this riddle, because we don't want to be stuck having to give this guy 30, you know, tuxedos, right? And so he, you know, she sells him out, and then he goes down to another town. He kills 30 strangers, takes their clothes off their bodies, brings them up there, gives them to the 30, you know, men at the bachelor party, you might say, and then, you know, he's just not happy at all. But that's what he does, and then now we get to 15, and if someone would read, please, the first 8 verses of chapter 15.
Later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. He said, "I'm going to my wife's room," but her father would not let him go in. "I was so sure you thoroughly hated her," he said, "that I gave her to your friend. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead."
Okay, so stop right there. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what you just read.
Like crap back then.
Yes, they were.
Okay, so what you just read was, okay, Samson he's got this cooling off period, and he decides to go consummate the marriage. That's what he asked. That's what he just asked for.
Yeah.
But her father stops him. This is his father-in-law to be. Stops him and says, "Well," in verse 2, "I thought you rejected her. I was pretty certain about that. Because, you know, she sold you out, you know, and we all know it. And so I gave her to your best man." And the best man was again, a stranger too. It was just so bizarre what was happening here. And this is when Samson's about to prove to be the best trapper in history. Okay, so continue.
Samson said to them, "This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and the standing grain together with the vineyards and the olive groves. When the Philistines asked, "Who did this?" they were told, "Samson the Timonite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his friend." So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Samson said to them, "Since you've acted like this, I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Etam.
Okay, so,
Tit for
so
tat.
Samson,
Wow.
okay, he blames, if you notice, he's mad at all the Philistines. It's all of you,
Yeah.
and I'm just killing you all. Even though, right there, it's just the father-in-law. It's the father-in-law. Everybody mute your phones. So it's the father-in-law that gave, his wife to his best man. Not all the Philistines. But he sees it as, I'm just mad at all. Some people, Samson's a guy with a temper. He's mad at the world. I'm going to get you all. I mean, he just sees them, all culpable. And don't forget, this is what he wanted anyway. I mean, he's the kind of guy, he likes being angry. He wants a reason to be angry. And to be angry as many people as he can. And this is what he wants to do anyway. He wants to kill the Philistines. So, you look at it and go, did he really want to marry this woman anyway? Is he really bothered that she was given to his best man?
Or is it an excuse?
Is it just is this the excuse he's using?
Was the best man a Philistine?
Uh-huh. And they're all stranger. He doesn't know any of these folks. This thing was set up for him. It's very interesting. So,
Remember,
now,
he should not have been marrying a Philistine woman in the first place.
no. He
So
should have
set
first,
himself up for.
right. But you remember it says, remember verse 4 of chapter 14, his father and mother did not know that this was from the Lord, for he was seeking a pretext to act against the Philistines. Because he actually, what the word says is that God has him break a law that God made. We talked about this, that if it's God's law, and God makes an exception to the law, that's God's prerogative. And so even though you're not supposed to marry, intermarry any of these Canaanites, which is why there's all these problems, that's why there's the book of Judges. It's because of all the intermarrying and then the falling for the Canaanite gods. There's the book of Judges. And so, but still, God goes, well, it would not be out of the ordinary. See, it actually works. The narrative works because that's a normal thing. The Israelite men, they were intermarrying with these Canaanite women all the time. It's just no biggie. It wouldn't surprise anybody. And so for Samson, though, as the judge, he's kind of known as the leader. At least he's supposed to be. And he's caving in. Well, that's been happening. So the storyline works for him in order to get near the Philistines, to win their trust, to be able to just, take them out when they're least expecting it. It's getting cold-cocked when you don't expect it. And that's what he's doing. And so, what do you think about it? How long does it take? How do you catch 300 foxes?
How do you tie their tails?
And do you do that with friends? And I don't even know there must have been a plague of foxes to even get your hands on 300 foxes.
I figure it was kind of like the boat. God brought the foxes.
He had to have help.
Okay, he had help, maybe he had a bunch of friends, listen, go get wherever you can find them, maybe it's the whole countryside, wherever, just go get them.
Kind of like the lion in the orchard.
Yeah,
Well,
that
or
come
even,
from?
or even
Yeah.
divine help.
yeah, divine help. Yeah, and so, either way, he gets his hands on 300 foxes. He's got them in pairs, so he's got 150 pairs
Of burning
that
corpses.
somehow, and I'm sure he's got he's with leather or something, he's tying their tails together, pretty darn taut, I'm sure, and somehow is able to, dangle, I'm sure that the torch is kind of laying, flapping on fire, and I'm sure he's got tar or something on there, bitumen, something that's gonna catch and stay hot as he sets these things going. And he sets them strategically, okay, because if you notice, he's got the vineyards, a lot of them, maybe all of them in the region. He's got the olive, orchards going. He's got the wheat fields going on fire. I mean, he's just blazing everything that is really the most valuable crops in the day. So I'm going to guess he had help, but either way, otherwise he had a very, very busy 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it was, with cages and this whole thing. It's just wild. And we're not given all the detail. Just use your imagination. This was quite the undertaking. But the guy sets their prized crops on fire. And of course the Philistines ask, "Who did this?" And somebody goes, "It's the son-in-law of this Temanite." Well, oh, you mean Samson? Okay, so then they actually follow through. They actually do the thing that they threatened to do. If she didn't rat on Samson and give them the answer to the riddle in the earlier chapter, and they literally set her and father on fire. All right. So death by fire, and then he says, "Well then." I'm just going to smoke all of you, as many as I can get my hands on. And it says, he struck them down hip and thigh. I love that term. We find that Elijah does the same to the priests of Baal. He smotes them hip and thigh. The Bible has great lines like that. Smote you hip and thigh. What does that mean? I mean, he's taking. With a sword, he's taking you. He's taking you out. He's hamstringing you good. So he kills a whole bunch. We don't know exactly how many, but it's a whole bunch. And then he kind of finds a little place to stay in this cleft of a rock at Etam. So you just think, a cleft of a rock. There's a A-frame cabin, so to speak, in the rock. An opening. He just kind of hangs out. It's a cave, natural place to just kind of be secretive for a little while. Shortly thereafter, he comes out. And let's go verse 9 to 13, somebody.
Now the Philistines went up, encamped in Judah, and deployed themselves against Lehi. And the men of Judah said, "Why have you come up against us?" So they answered, "We have come up to arrest Samson and to do him as he has done to us." Then 3,000 men of Judah went down in the cleft of the rock at Etham and said to Samson, "Do you not know that the Philistines rule over us? What is this you have done to us?" And he said to them, "As they did to me, so have I done to them." Leviticus, whatever, and Psalms. How far?
To 13.
Thank you. But as they said to him, "We have come down to arrest you, that we may deliver you to the land of the Philistines." Then Samson said to them, "Swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves." So they spoke to him, saying, "No, but we will tie you securely and deliver you into their land, but we will surely not kill you." And they bound him with new ropes and brought him up from the rock.
Okay, so you got the scene. So the Philistines that come to find Samson, they go attack where they think he may be, his people. And they go, "Hey, what's your beef with us? Why are you attacking us?" And they're already under, Philistine, they're in Philistine occupied territory. And they said, well, we're looking for Samson, because we're going to do to him what he's done to us. Well, he ain't here, but listen, we think we can go get him for you, okay? Give us a little time? Okay. So, 3,000 men. How many people does it take to go get one guy?
Ask Roger Stone.
Okay. That tells you something when you send a posse of 3,000 out with a U.S. Marshal to go bring back one guy. They know what this guy can do. So 3,000. 3,000. Which, by the way, what we're going to read next, I don't think it would have mattered. The 3,000, I don't think were enough. Wait till you see what happens next. Okay.
Yeah.
This guy truly is amazing. This is how much even his own people are afraid of him, and they've seen what this guy can do. So, you know, he goes, what are you? Now he's saying to his own people, well, what's your beef with me? Listen, you know that the Philistines are ruling over us. And they're picking on us because they want you. So listen, well, we've come to get you and bring you to them because you're what they want. And I think they'll stop picking on us the moment we can deliver you to them. And what does he say?
Just don't kill me.
Just kill me.
Yeah. And I wonder how he said that.
Yeah.
Oh, please don't kill me. You and your 3,000 tough guys.
Yeah, right.
Just don't hurt me. All right. He goes, I'll go with you. It's very interesting. Sure. This guy, so he's really confident because he knows what he's got. He knows what the Spirit of God, he knows. I mean, here, what? Think about it. You're Samson. What do you feel? What do you know? You go, I got this. I'm going to take these guys. This is nothing at all. I mean, he is so confident because he knows what it feels like to have the Spirit of God. Now, really, let this get a hold of you. God. The Spirit of Almighty God who parts waters. Puts stars in space here. I mean, makes this world. What does that feel like to be Samson?
You really don't know if he didn't do something like Moses and speak with him.
Oh yeah. And there's got to be some sort of conversation. There's something there because he just knows what he's supposed to be doing. But I just wonder, what would that be like?
To know that he has that strength.
I mean, do I have enough vocabulary here? Am I got enough words to help you in your imagination really think what it would be like to have the very Spirit of God on you, in you? I mean, you know what it's like to have adrenaline kick in? And you feel like you can do anything? What in the world is it like to have the Spirit of God? It's like, sure, bring me to
Come
him.
on.
You know, I'm gonna take. I can't wait to do this. And so they wrap him up with new robes. Do you notice it said that specifically?
Yes.
Because they know something about this guy. They're going, make sure you bring the new robes, okay? Don't use the old ones. Too easy to snap out of for this guy. I mean, bring brand new from, Connect Hardware, get the thickest ones you can, okay? Because we need to do what we can. Because they just know his strength, as if that would do anything. Anyway, so, swear to me you would attack me. Verse 13, we will only bind you and give you into their hands, and we won't kill you. So that's what they do. New robes. They bring him up. Verse 14, somebody please read 14 to the end of the chapter.
And when he came unto Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his bands loosed from off his hand. And he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. And Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps, with the jaw of an ass have I slain 1,000 men. And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking, that he cast away the jawbone out of his hand, and called that place Ramath-lehi. And he was sore athirst, and called on the Lord, and said, Thou hast given this great deliverance into the hand of thy servant, and now shall I die for thirst, and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised? But God clave a hollow place that was in the jaw, and there came water thereout. And when he had drunk, his spirit came again, and he revived, wherefore he called the name thereof En-hak-koreh, which is in Lehi unto this day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years.
Now, you used to train for combat. How exhausted would you be throwing 1,000 lethal blows?
Oh my gosh, it'd be wild. Yeah, I think I read this with that because I mean, multiple opponents, you can only take so many, and you think the endurance, stamina, the lethality with which he moved, and all. He's not even worried about the weapon he's going to need when he gets there. He just knows he can use anything. He can use a bar stool. He can use whatever. And it just so happens when he gets up there and the 3,000 deliver him in front of imagine the details. Well, there's at least 1,000 Philistines there to come get him. Again, that's how many they're relearning. We just really need a big posse, both his own people and the enemy. And I wonder what the men of Judah did once they brought him.
Yeah.
Just kind of backed away and we'll watch. We'll watch. We're here. This is going to be great. You got the popcorn? Let's watch. And he just so happens the ropes, these brand new ropes, just kind of fall off him like a match was under what is it? Flash just comes off. Nothing.
But it's not Samson, it's the Spirit of the Lord.
It is. It is. And it's the Spirit of God just supercharging him and giving him, and I was thinking about this. What were we able to, it helps me, part of me thinks, what was Adam and Eve able to do at the beginning? What in the world could they do? Could they leap tall buildings in a single bound? Are they faster than a locomotive? I mean, when Adam and Eve moved, what were they like? Something tells me they probably had amazing stamina. I mean, they were perfect. Their physical bodies were perfect. And I wonder if, by today's standards, we'd say they were superhuman. I wonder if they were kind of like a Samson. What they were just able to do, just strength. So either way, Samson, he just goes, a jawbone. Now, like half of it, like this part, or a whole lower one.
Mandible.
Yeah. Well, how much? Whatever it was, that's all I needed. Come on, bring it on, guys. And it's just whack. And you imagine, however he's just.
1,000 times.
How do you kill 1,000 men? First off, where are they laying? And what pile of, I mean, you're climbing over the pile you're making to keep going and getting them. I wonder, is he standing 50 feet high on a bunch of dead Philistines? I mean, are they all around him? They're all trying to, I mean, you see Kung Fu movies, Bruce Lee movies. Taking on multiple opponents with one weapon. Now, the mighty men of David, I mean, there's guys that take out 1,000, with one sword, a spear. I mean, this isn't the last time. So we see that God actually, he will, it wasn't just Samson that had that experience. And, I forgot which one was the guy with the sword, but he killed 1,000 Philistines with a sword. And when he finally was done, the last guy, they said they had to pry his hand off the handle. Well, you imagine what your grip was like on that thing. And I'm sure you're locked up down there. But so, takes out 1,000, sings a little song. You know, do you see this thing? And Samson said, you know, he's got this little rhyme thing he does. With a jawbone of a donkey, you know, heaps upon heaps. Literally, piles of these guys. With a jawbone of a donkey, I've slain 1,000 men. And when he was finished, he threw it away. Ha! Ha! Tossed his weapon. It's just a great scene. And then the name of the place is Hill of the Jawbone. That's what he names it. Okay? Ramath Lehi. And by then he was very thirsty. Yeah, verse 18. I'd be thirsty too. And he goes, boy, I'm so thirsty, I'm about to die of thirst. And then I'll fall into their hands. So it's like, after the letdown, he goes, okay, I'm at my max, kill USDA ratio, whatever, for the day. That's about all I can kill today, and I need something. So God splits open this hollow place here, and all of a sudden there's this water that comes out. It sounds like what happened when, you know, Israelites went out in the wilderness, the Hebrews went in the wilderness. Water comes from a rock. He revived. And then he named the place En Hakore, the spring of the one who called. The one. I'm sure that would be God.
Is it capitalized there?
Yes. Yes. And now, wait a minute. He's a Nazarite. He's not supposed to touch anything dead. And not only was he holding the jawbone from a dead donkey, he's making a bunch of dead people with it. And the Spirit of God is blessing this. He's empowering the guy who's breaking God's laws for Nazarites. Hold on to that. Chapter 16. Somebody please read the first 3 verses.
Now Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there, and went into her. When it was told to the Gazites, saying, Samson has come here, they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. And they kept silent all night, saying, let us wait until the morning light, and we will kill him. Now Samson lay until midnight, and at midnight he arose and took hold of the doors of the city gate and the 2 posts, and pulled them up along with the bars. Then he put them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the mountain, which is opposite Hebron. Ooh.
So, God just enabled this guy to kill 1,000 enemies. And in celebration, he goes to a prostitute. And then God empowers him to yank the city gates, posts, bars, and all, put them on his shoulders. This is hundreds and hundreds of pounds. This is rough sawn timber. This is not, I mean, this is big, stinking lumber, how big, and all the hardware that comes with it. And he carries them up on top of a hill. You ever go backpacking? What's the heaviest pack you ever put on your back? 40, 50 pounds?
It was really heavy.
Right? How far can you do? This guy is just superhuman. Movies are made out of this kind of thing. Superman stuff here. But the blessing of God with strength before and after the prostitute, you got a little whiplash? Hang on to that. Hang on to that. Let's talk about the city gates. The gates of the city were very symbolic of protection and prosperity. And it was said that he who possesses the gates of a city can defeat the enemy. That is why, and that was something they knew in the ancient world, Jesus even referred to it when he said the gates of hell will not stand against the church. See, the protection and the prosperity that hell promises can be ripped out of the ground by the church. Let me repeat that. Okay, the gates of the city. Whoever has the gates of the city. Remember, it's at the city gates that deals are made. It's at the city gates. That's where the leadership was. I mean, right inside the city gates. That is where the legislation is done. Deals are made. It's City Hall. You know, that's where it is. And the gates are like the symbol of, they'd be elaborate. The bigger, beautiful, more ornate, adorned gates, and it opens up, and the first thing you come into, and you must go through first, I mean, it's customs, it's where you're exchanging your money, it's where you're making deals, it's the headquarters. And if somebody can literally like take the door off of the vault and walk away with it, they're saying,
I got you.
I got you. I mean, there's nothing you have that I can't take. This is your protection. And so that's what he shoulders. I mean, and that's why, again, when Jesus says, and the gates of hell cannot stand against, it cannot stay in the ground. It cannot not be uprooted by the church. That's the imagery. I love it. Verse 4. Somebody please read, just 4.
Afterward it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek,
Sorry.
whose name was Delilah.
Wow.
Comes the gun.
What number is this?
It's quite the playboy.
He is.
3 or 4.
But this is not like this isn't a one-night stand that he just had with his prostitute. Now he literally falls in love with this gal. Okay, so now there's something here. Okay, so now let's.
Is she a Philistine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's think a little more about Samson the judge. God called Samson to be the judge, the political military leader. He was supposed to be this leader who would declare war on Israel's enemies, the Philistines, namely, and kill them like he did, because sometimes that's what you must do in war. But instead of doing that, he's killing sporadically, out of personal vengeance. Do you notice that? Mm-hmm. He's not single-minded in his mission, and because he had a thing for foreign women. Charles Spurgeon, the late great Charles Spurgeon, he said that Christians are the only soldiers that fraternize with the enemy. I appreciated the comments of Dr. Michael Yosef. He said he doesn't like studying Samson's life because he's depressing. Samson represents squandered opportunities, disappointed hope, misused gifts, unchecked weaknesses, and undisciplined potential. Mm-hmm. Samson was strong with men and animals, but weak when it came to pagan women. And again, I want to remind you, with every successive judge, Israel kept going in this downward direction. And Samson was a reflection of the culture of the day. And if there was one sentence that summarized the day that Samson lived and ruled in, it would actually be found in chapter 17, verse 6. In those days there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes. Okay? So, quick application for us. Are we reflecting the culture instead of correcting it? Reflecting versus correcting. Because that's what he was doing. That's what the nation of Israel was doing. They were reflecting the culture, not correcting the culture. He was a loner. Do you notice that? Where's his buddies? Is there anybody named, who's by him? I mean, For 20 years, he plays the champion, but he never really led. He never really rallied the troop. You never see him calling out an army. He doesn't, remember what the previous judges do? It always says, and they went through the regions. They go through all these regions of the various tribes, and they call out the men for war. I need an army, come on, follow me. And they're ready to lead in battle. Samson never does that. It's a one-man show. Because he also has something, he's got something no prior judge had. What is it?
Divine intervention.
He has the Spirit of God on him in a way that, why? Why didn't God give this kind of supernatural strength to prior judges? I don't know. Can't tell you why he did or didn't. All we know is that Samson's got it. And maybe because of that, Samson is very self-assured. He goes, I don't need an army. I'm a one-man army.
Maybe even arrogant.
I mean, if you can take out 1,000 guys yourself, I mean, why get a bunch of guys that can only maybe take one guy if they're not taken out by the enemy? I mean, if you want to do a job well, you want to do it right, whatever, do it yourself. And so I think that's Samson's attitude. But, you know, it should have been, even though he had all that power, I mean, still, you know, you do a disservice to the rest of the men by denying them the opportunity to gain victory and literally step up to the plate and take a stand and do what their predecessors did not do when God told them to do it. They know why there's the Philistine occupation. It's because the great-great-great-grandparents' generation didn't take them out when it was their watch. So Samson, though, talk about somebody who rallied the troops. I mean, tell me this. You know, it's one thing for Jephthah, or a prior judge, to show up and rally, come on, you know, because he had a band of, you know, thugs, and he was known as just kind of being the Jesse James, the outlaw, and okay, you know, he's a good fighter, okay, and, you know, we'll go to war with you. How about if Samson was your general? I'm going. I mean, in fact, I'm going to kind of stand right by him. And if anybody gets past Samson, you know, sure, I'll hack at him. But if you think about it, wouldn't you want to go to war with Samson? How much confidence would that give? I just wonder, given we're almost at the last judge, that God is thinking this. Okay, watch. Since y'all pansies, and you didn't do it earlier, I'm going to give you Superman as your leader. And all the men should go, yeah, we're going to finally do it. We didn't do it in the past. Grandma and Grandpa didn't do it. But we can do it because look at who we got. And you go into the war, you know, with Captain America, with Iron Man. I mean, come on. I mean, you're thinking, if we ever stood a chance to finish the job, it's now, it's our generation, because look who's at the helm. I mean, come on, church. If the church in America ever had an opportunity to push back on the culture and to really secure religious freedom, it's with Donald Trump at the White House. Are we doing it?
All of them were corrupt, just like Samson was. However, if Samson, one man, does everything that they could have done if they'd had divine intervention, there wouldn't be any object lesson.
Oh, yeah.
Lesson.
Oh, yeah.
So did the Lord want an object lesson for all of them?
I was thinking,
And yet he was corrupt like them.
I was thinking that it's Samson's sort of a reflection of the whole culture.
He is. Right, well, that he is. And I'm going to even repeat that very thing before we're even done if we finish tonight. He is. Watch what happens with Delilah. Then you really realize what happened with him, especially when it comes to him finally losing his strength. And I don't know if we're even going to get to this tonight. It's already 7:45, but yes, he's. The judge is a reflection of the nation.
Well, he goes the enemy, well, as we kind of read here, he goes the enemy alone and he doesn't have any support group, so at some point the enemy, you know, wears him down and takes him over.
You hear that? That's very good.
Yeah.
He does. That's right, Brian. Because you find out what happens with Delilah. He's tired. He's worn down. Because he's been the one-man show. And that's when he becomes very vulnerable. Very right.
Any one-man show wears out eventually.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, no lone rangers are allowed. So, a little more. Samson, you gotta remember, he's a Nazarite. It's in Numbers chapter 6 that we read about the 3 things that a Nazarite must never do. And as we read through this story, we see him breaking the 3 vows one by one. And when he breaks the 3rd and final vow, which we probably won't get to tonight, that's when he finally loses his supernatural strength. And for the first time, he's overcome by his enemies. For the first time. But those 3 vows were that a Nazarite could not touch
Anything dead or defiled.
That's one of them. Grapes. You can't touch a grape or anything that comes from a grape. Not wine, nothing. No grape juice, nothing. Nothing to do with grapes. We saw him break that vow being in a vineyard twice. And when hosting his bachelor party, another one of the vows was that a Nazarite could not touch a dead person or go near a dead body, anything dead. Numbers chapter 6, verse 9, when it outlines the rules for the Nazarite, it says that a Nazarite, if someone dies very suddenly by a Nazarite, then he's got to go through an extensive cleansing process, and then afterwards that person is no longer a Nazarite. And before moving ahead, I want to ask a question out loud that perhaps you've been asking yourself while reading the Samson story. And that is Samson a Nazarite that shouldn't have been a judge? Or is he a judge that should have been a Nazarite? And I ask you that because as a judge, he was supposed to lead in war. But as a Nazarite, he wasn't supposed to be anywhere near dead people. And that's problematic, since people suddenly die near Samson on a regular basis. Because he saw to it. And it was God's command for Samson to lead in war against the Philistines. Why would God give Samson a command to be a Nazarite and a judge that includes divine supernatural strength to bring death to his enemies?
He wouldn't.
But he did.
But he did. He calls him to be a Nazarite, which we looked at the very beginning. He tells his mom, you're going to be a Nazarite. You're going to have a kid. He's going to be a Nazarite his whole life. But God also calls him to be a judge.
Isn't he directing him to be disobedient to those laws?
God has also, as we saw, God who makes the laws can make the exception to the laws if he wants to. It looks like he's done that. Samson, I want you to be a Nazarite. I want you to do these certain things. Now, it appears, the touching the wine thing, God didn't look like he was making an opportunity for him to break that vow or the last vow, which is you cannot cut your hair ever from birth. And but touching dead things, well, you know what, that one we're just going to not worry about right now, because Samson, I need you to make a lot of dead things. Again, if God makes the law, if he wants to circumvent it, he can. Now, out of all that can be said about this, I will simply say that according to Judges 6, Numbers 6, Samson, as a Nazarite, was supposed to have confessed to breaking his vows before the high priest, gone through a purification process, and then he'd be freed up from the life that he can't live, and he could just stick to being the judge. So not only did he fail to keep his Nazarite vows, but he failed to do what a Nazarite is commanded to do after breaking those vows. To put that in perspective, if a Catholic priest or a nun continually fail to keep their religious vow of chastity, it'd probably be best if they ask Jesus for forgiveness and take a permanent break from being, from being in their religious office, and then just go get married.
He was given the directive by the Lord to do the battle and kill people, but he wasn't given the directive to not, oh, I'm using the wrong word, but repent for what he as a Nazarite knew what he was supposed to do as far as cleansing himself afterwards. He's open again, and he made a choice.
Did he know what he was supposed to do?
I'm assuming he knew.
Okay.
Now, maybe he didn't. That's a good question. I mean,
Because everybody was living on their own with whatever they thought. I mean, the priests weren't doing their job, nobody was doing their job.
yeah. And God hasn't removed the supernatural power that I'm assuming
That's what he wanted.
that Samson is connecting the Spirit of God power on him to his being a Nazarite. And it's like, well, I guess I could be a Nazarite light and still get the benefits of, you know, the supernatural power. You know, as long as I, for the most part, most days, keep my vows. And after all, I haven't cut my hair. So, you know, I've touched the grapes, I've killed dead people, or killed dead people. Killed them twice, made sure they were dead. He kills people, he's touching dead things, making dead things, but he still hasn't cut his hair. So maybe he's thinking, I'm still okay.
Yeah.
We don't know. It's all speculation. But the third vow of the Nazarite was that they could not cut their hair. And we're going to look at that next week.
So you're saying poor Samsonite kind of got the attitude of two out of three ain't bad?
2 out of 3 ain't bad. So, okay? Okay? Any thoughts?
He's making too many decisions on his own, not through the Lord.
Okay? Making a lot of decisions on his own.
It seems to me that the Lord has been to the end. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what he needs Samson to do. So, Samson going through it, he's willing to forgive until Samson gets to the end point and accomplishes what it is he set forth for him to do. That the Lord is being tolerant, perhaps, with Samson, even though he's a bad boy.
Well, isn't he tolerant with all of us?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, but I go and I try to say every day, God, I blew it, forgive me.
Yeah.
I didn't see Samson doing that.
But Samson seems to be arrogant, okay? When Tony and I were in Branson, we saw a live play of the life of Samson.
Is that amazing?
And in that play, I came away with the idea that basically nobody liked Samson. That he wasn't a part of the culture, he wasn't a part of the town he lived in. He was sort of a loner all the way through. And I kind of feel that that might be, hey, I'm this strong, mighty person. I don't need anybody. I can do this on my own. I'm arrogant. That's what I get from reading Samson and from having seen that play, the way it came across.
And his arrogance stops him from learning anything.
Yes. As everybody's arrogance does. You don't
Yeah.
learn the lesson.
Yeah. It's very interesting how it ends. I can't wait.
Mhm.
I really can't wait. I hate to stop now because it gets so good.
So good.
So good. But you know, we talked about this last week. You know, why in the world does God keep blessing this guy, though he's just, you know.
He's a sinner.
Yeah, you're right. Well, Tony and I were talking about it today. Very interesting conversation he and I had today. Maybe we'll develop it a little more and end our time by next week with it, I think. But maybe just God looks at things different than we do. God has something he wants to accomplish. God has his eyes on a goal. It's his will. Our nature is to look at Samson and to go, okay, watch. God's got his eyes on the goal. He's got a whole nation he wants to free, refine. He's got this enemy that for centuries he's wanted out of the land. And he made a decision to work through this guy. And God, who knows everything, knows what this guy is going to do. None of this has taken God by surprise. Our nature, I think, is to look at Samson and how he screws up, and then question God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you use him and bless him anyway? And, well, because he's still, as sporadically and out of vengeance he's doing it, he's still accomplishing, and he will accomplish God's will. Because God's eyes are on his goal, which is the destruction of the Philistines. And Samson is the guy he's using. And there's no other guy in the story, no woman, like a Deborah. There's nobody stepping up to the plate to help Samson or even replace Samson. There's nobody who's more righteous than Samson. I mean, who's God have to work with? I mean, who in the country, are we literally left to assume that, oh, Samson is, what, the holiest out of all the Israelites? No, he's just like, he's like the rest of them. That's why they're in trouble. That's why they're in Philistine-occupied territory.
If you look at him like nothing but God's tool, then maybe it's somewhat more easy and makes sense for him to end up like he ends up. He's simply one tool to fulfill what the Lord needs done, and nothing more important than that in the grand scheme of things.
Okay. You know, think about that. Maybe God's just, in the grand scheme of things, Samson, because his name it's mentioned, he visits a prostitute, then he has another one-night stand, then another one, then another woman, then another one. What if all the men are doing that?
So then if he does what he does and ends up like he ends up, then he is an object lesson for all of these others. I mean, they're going to wonder why this happened when he was God's chosen, and well, he was breaking this rule, that rule, maybe we should.
You would think.
Yeah, but they don't.
He is definitely one among many. The whole culture, even the judge, he's barely scraping by. At least he's one guy. There's one thing that you notice Samson is doing. He's the only man, he's the only Jew who's taken on the Philistines. Even though he sleeps with a few Philistine women along the way, he's still taken out the Philistines. It would be nice if he wasn't doing that. It would be nice if he didn't complicate matters. But God's got his eyes on the goal, and Samson is still useful to God because God decided Samson to be. Can God not withdraw his hand and his spirit from Samson anytime he wanted?
Absolutely.
Samson doesn't have a right to the Spirit of God anointing on him.
Or an arrogance to break his
Yeah.
Nazarite duties.
Right. I mean, God can just go like this and lift it, but God's not lifting it. That's very interesting. You've got to keep that in the computer there, of the mind, that, okay, God can totally strip this guy of everything at any time. He could strip him of his post, his office, anytime. He's not.
There's your object lesson.
Yeah. And it's going to get very interesting by next week. Because we will see at one point, he does lose his strength. The Spirit of God does finally lift off him. And you're going to find out, oh yeah, I was waiting for God to do this. I just oh, why didn't he do it earlier, back when he did it the first time? Okay. And eventually, God takes a spirit from Samson. You know the story, you know the story. Okay, wait, so that's coming. Okay, so there is a point where God finally goes, okay, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Accomplished my goal.
But, as it happened to the nation, it happens to Samson. In the midst of your suffering, as you're now a prisoner, a slave of the Philistines, you're going to cry out to me, and I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to bring you back. In fact, I'm going to do a greater work in his life. God does something with Samson in his death greater than he ever did in all the years Samson was alive. So there's the teaser. It's great. Katie, would you pray us out?
Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for your word tonight, Lord. And as we ponder what Pastor has said about Samson, Lord, and Lord, that, yeah, you could have just taken away his strength, but Lord, you chose not to at that time. And Lord, I just pray that you will just help us, Lord, to live a life that you would have us to live, Lord Jesus. And to walk the walk, Lord, and talk the talk. And Lord, I just thank you for this teaching, and I just pray that you be with us for the rest of this week and take us home safely. In precious and holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Katie. Amen. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
You're still doing Taekwondo?